If you've ever wondered what it would be like to pilot a jet transforming mecha while jamming to an ultra catchy 90s J-pop soundtrack, then Bulk Slash on the Sega Saturn is your Technicolor dream come true. This obscure gem drops you into a futuristic battlefield where your mission is simple: blow stuff up, rescue scantily clad navigators and look cool whilst doing it. The controls are surprisingly fluid for a game that has you flipping between a sleek fighter jet and a bipedal robot, both of which handle like a caffeinated squirrel on roller skates. It's chaotic, sure, but that's all part of the charm. Visually, Bulk Slash is like an explosion in a neon factory. Bright, bold and unapologetically loud. Saturn's 3D capabilities might not hold up to today's standards, but the game squeezes every bit of polygonal juice out of the console. The environments are vast, the explosions are satisfyingly over the top, and the enemy designs are just the right mix of menacing and I've seen this in an anime somewhere.
We're right near the target! Isn't that it up there? Holy moly! Should be around here.
What really sets Bulk Slash apart though is its sound design. The soundtrack is pure ear candy, with high energy tracks that perfectly complement the fast-paced action. And let's not forget the voice acting. Your navigators cheer you on with lines that range from encouraging to utterly baffling, all delivered with the kind of enthusiasm that only 90s game characters can muster.
It should be around here. Looks like left.
Is Bulk Slash a perfect game? Not by a long shot. The camera occasionally throws a tantrum and the mission objectives can be as cryptic as a riddle wrapped in an enigma. But honestly, who cares? You'll be having too much fun dodging laser fire and unleashing missile barrages to nitpick the finer details. In short, Bulk Slash is the video game equivalent of a Saturday morning cartoon. Action-packed, a little cheesy and endlessly entertaining. If you're a fan of mecha, J-pop, or just want to experience one of the Sega Saturn's hidden treasures, do yourself a favour and give this wild ride a spin. Just don't be surprised if you find yourself humming the soundtrack long after the final boss has been vaporised. Alright gamers, today I'm diving headfirst into the world of my favourite Dreamcast games. The hidden gems, the absolute classics and the weirdly wonderful experiences that kept me glued to my TV back in the day. Whether you're here for the nostalgia trip or just to find out what made this console so darn special, buckle up. My name is Adam, and these are the top 10 best Dreamcast games ever made. Let's get stuck in.
We got her! Hi, Randy.
Well, hello.
It's thinking.
In at number 10 is probably the most stylish game on the list, Space Channel 5.
Hey there, Space Cats! Ooh la la here, coming at you from Spaceport 9. Tonight I'm investigating reports that aliens have invaded and are forcing people to dance.
Copy the aliens' moves. Press the buttons with the rhythm. Get on it.
Let's dance!
Ooh la la, our futuristic reporter, battled aliens by dancing. Yes, you heard that right, dancing. This rhythm game was funky, weird, and so addictive. You had to match the enemy's dance moves to the beat, and if you didn't get in sync, Ooh La La wasn't saving anyone. It was groovy, quirky, and one of the Dreamcast's most unique experiences. Who knew saving the galaxy could look so cool?
Up, down, kick, kick, kick. Up, down, shoot, shoot, shoot. Up, down, kick, kick, kick. Up, down, shoot, shoot, shoot.
Capcom presents.
In at number 9 is the absolutely amazing Marvel vs. Capcom 2.
Select your heroes.
What do you get when you throw Spider-Man, Ryu and Wolverine into a blender? A game that's pure insanity. The combos were insane, the roster was stacked, and the battles? Chaotic perfection. This is where friendships went to die and comebacks became legendary.
Your identification number is WKD4496. Welcome to your new home.
Number 8 is Resident Evil Code Veronica. This game had all the classic Resident Evil creepiness and then some. The jump scares, the eerie atmosphere, the tension of managing your barely existing ammo, it had it all. And don't even talk to me about those Bandersnatch creatures. They still haunt my dreams. If you wanted survival horror on the Dreamcast, this was your go-to nightmare fuel.
Without warning, a dark cloud fills the sky, and then a huge shadow blankets the entire room with roar that shakes the entire land. Suddenly, a mysterious floating castle appears out of nowhere. In the blink of an eye, the Power Stone heroes are caught and transported to the floating castle. What will happen to our heroes? Welcome to the Power Stone world.
At number 7 is the incredible Power Stone 2. Now, if you haven't played Power Stone 2, I feel bad for you, son. You missed out on one of the greatest party brawlers of all time. Imagine Smash Brothers, but with more chaos, stage hazards, and, you guessed it, Power Stones. You and your friends could turn everyday items into weapons of mass destruction. If you haven't been KO'd by a random flying crate, did you even Power Stone, dude?
Hurry up!
これね。
Fight on to victory! Action!
Powerful! Powerful!
Knockout! Victory!
At number 6, it's time to get competitive with Soul Calibur. This was the fighting game for Dreamcast, and don't even try to argue with me. I remember spending hours button mashing with my friends, pretending I had any idea what I was doing. Each character had such a unique style, whether you were flailing around with Voldo or slicing through your opponents with Mitsurugi. It was pure fun. And let's be real, the Dreamcast's smooth graphics made it look next gen before next gen was even a thing.
This victory strengthens the soul of Geek. You win!
まだ痛い目に遭いたいかい?
Next up at number 5 is the absolute masterpiece known as Skies of Arcadia, Pirates in the Sky. What more do I need to say? This JRPG had it all. Epic airship battles, a vibrant world and a lovable cast of characters. If you didn't fantasize about commanding your own ship and exploring the skies, did you even play this game? It's like Treasure Planet but with more sword fights and less Disney. In at number 4 is Shenmue. Shenmue. A game where you could do everything, but also nothing at the same time. I mean, I spent more time in the arcade playing Space Harrier than actually avenging Ryo's father. This was one of the first times I felt like a game world was truly alive. From asking awkward questions to NPCs to chasing down sailors. It had its quirks, but Shenmue was groundbreaking. Also, forklift racing. Enough said.
I should buy one. I know this.
Get around the radio!
And number 3 is Jet Grind Radio, or Jet Set Radio as it was known over here in the UK. or as I like to call it, the reason I wanted to be a graffiti artist but I can't even draw stick figures. This game was slick, stylish and cool in a way that most games just weren't. You weren't just skating, you were an urban artist, sticking it to the man. Plus that cel-shaded art style, it still holds up today. Admit it, you're still humming that soundtrack too.
Hey, come on over, have some fun with Crazy Taxi. Yeah.
Next up, in at number 2 is Crazy Taxi, the game that made reckless driving look way too fun. This wasn't just about getting passengers from point A to point B, it was about doing it with style. And by style, I mean running through parks, crashing into buses and miraculously not getting sued. The Offspring blasting in the background, chef's kiss. If you didn't play this game shouting woohoo at your screen, you're doing life wrong.
I told you so. You're okay, get in. Watch it, fool. Take me to the car. Okay, hang on. Woo! Let's go. Just shut up. Let's go. Oh. That's a lucky day. That was hella fast. I get you there in no time.
This is great. I gotta go to Tower Records.
Okay, hang on.
Come on, let's go.
Yeah, I got it.
What are you, stupid? Go slow.
Just shut up and let's roll. I'll catch you later.
Thanks.
That's a hurry, come on up.
Let's get ready to rumble.
It's round 1, and Sega is flexing its newfound muscles with its brand new game system called Dreamcast.
If you've made it this far into the video, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. If you're enjoying it and this is your kind of thing, please subscribe, like and hit that bell. But don't go anywhere just yet. I've got one more game for you.
Dreamcast will bring in more in one day than even the hit movie Star Wars The Phantom Menace made on its opening day.
Sigma Alpha 2 heading due south over the city. We're en route. Everything's a go.
This is Control Tower. We have you on radar. Report cargo status of captured Hedgehog aboard. Over.
That's a 10-4. Cargo secured on board and... What? The
Didn't copy
Hedgehog
that.
is
Over.
gone. He's taken out everyone aboard and...
What's wrong?
What in the
Come
world?
in. Over.
Freeze! What do you think you're doing? Get that Hedgehog!
Talk about low-budget flights, no food or movies. I'm out of here. I like running better.
Attention all units. Suspect seen heading south. Block all major roads and capture the suspect.
And at number 1 is the mighty Sonic Adventure 2. If you played this game, you know exactly what I mean when I say rolling around at the speed of sound. City Escape, iconic. Chow Garden, addictive. And don't even get me started on the soundtrack. Escape from the City still randomly pops into my head when I'm walking down the street. Sonic may have had his ups and downs, but this was pure Sonic gold. Cannon Spike were a cocktail. It'd be a shot of adrenaline with a twist of chaos, served in a highball glass full of bullets. Released for the Dreamcast, this game is an unapologetically over-the-top arcade shooter where famous Capcom characters strap on rocket boots, grab oversized weapons and dive headfirst into a bonkers bullet-ridden battlefield. Imagine a world where Street Fighter and Mega Man heroes decide they're done throwing punches in the ring and now want to blow stuff up in style. That's Cannon Spike. You can play as Cammy, Charlie, Mega Man, yeah, that Mega Man, and even Arthur from Ghosts and Goblins. All in a fast-paced, twin-stick shooting romp that feels like a wild cross between Smash TV and your favourite action movie. It's an odd mix of Capcom All-Stars, but it works like magic. Gameplay is simple but ridiculously fun. It's you, and a friend if you're lucky, against endless waves of robots, tanks, helicopters and bosses that all seem to have taken personal offence to your existence. You shoot in 360 degrees while jetting around the battlefield like you're auditioning for the next Fast and Furious movie, but with more laser guns and fewer car chases. The twin stick shooting mechanics are intuitive and keep the action flowing faster than a speed run. And then there's the pure arcade charm. Cannon Spike doesn't care much about things like story or depth, it just wants you to blow stuff up and look cool doing it. The levels are short and sweet, perfect for quick bursts of action or for speed running through after a long day of not blowing stuff up. But the boss battles are where the game truly shines, throwing larger than life enemies at you with patterns so intense you'll need a second pair of eyes just to dodge. Visually, Cannon Spike isn't here to win beauty pageants, but its blocky, colourful aesthetic gets the job done nicely. The Dreamcast pushes out clean, vibrant environments that range from city streets to military bases, each packed with enemies and destruction waiting to happen. The characters are well animated and recognisable, with just the right amount of retro charm to make you grin when Mega Man's tiny legs outrun a missile barrage. On the downside, Cannon Spike can feel a little light on content. You'll blast through it faster than a rocket-powered Cammy on skates. The levels are short, and unless you're aiming for high scores or just love the chaotic combat, you might feel the burn of repetition after a few playthroughs. But that's part of the old school arcade charm. It's about refining your skills and getting that perfect run, rather than digging into a complex narrative. All in all, Cannon Spike is a fast, frenetic blast of fun that reminds you of the best days of arcade gaming. It's not deep, it's not long, but it's a joyride through bullet hell bliss with some of Capcom's most iconic faces. So if you're craving some mindless yet skillful mayhem, strap on your skates, load up your guns and get ready to Cannon Spike your way to glory. Last week I did a video on the top 10 Sega Mega CD games that pushed the system to the absolute limit. This week we're doing the same thing with the Sega Mega Drive, Sega Genesis, the top 10 games that pushed the Sega Mega Drive to its absolute limit. Let's get stuck in. Coming in hot at number 10, Ranger X. This game was like watching Michael Bay direct a 16-bit mecha flick with detailed sprites, complex parallax scrolling and an insane amount of on-screen action. Ranger X was the visual flex your Genesis wished it had sunglasses for. Parallax scrolling for days. Not bad for a console with just 1 megabyte of RAM. Pixar on a Mega Drive? Yes please. At number 9, Toy Story turned your Genesis and Mega Drive into a digital playground with 3D effects that made you question if your console suddenly got a graphics card upgrade. Spoiler, it didn't. This wasn't just a game, it was a digital illusion. Those pseudo 3D graphics were like a magic trick. How is my 16-bit console doing this? Does it have Buzz Lightyear's tech? Next up, I've got the game that made you feel like you were playing a Marvel comic. Without the Disney lawyers breathing down your neck, of course. Number 8 is Comic Zone. With its slick comic panel transitions and hand-drawn art style, this game wasn't just pushing the system, it was drop-kicking it right through the fourth wall. And if you ripped a page in frustration, well, congrats, you're just adding to the authenticity. At number 7, Red Zone, the game that showed us you could have a cinematic experience on the Mega Drive, provided you were cool with a helicopter doing most of the work. It's basically Top Gun with a whole lot more pixel sweat. And a helicopter. Oh, and did I mention, Red Zone runs at 60 frames per second. Yeah, that's not a typo. The game was like, Genesis, let's break the sound barrier of 16-bit gaming. In at number 6, it's the game that made your Mega Drive feel like it was about to have a midlife crisis, Virtua Racing. While most games on the console stuck to sprites, Virtua Racing decided polygons were the way to go. And how did they make this sorcery happen? With the magical SVP chip. It's like the Mega Drive was running with a power-up until you saw the price tag. But hey, 3D racing at 20 frames per second? Worth every penny. Can't talk about pushing the Sega Mega Drive to its limit without mentioning the Blue Blur himself. Number 5 is Sonic the Hedgehog 3 and Knuckles, and yes, we're talking about the complete game, cartridge lock-on and all. From seamless level transitions to gigantic, colourful sprites, this was the Sonic experience that made you feel like your console was running at high speed. And don't forget the dynamic split-screen multiplayer. That's right, split screen in 1994. Take that, modern games. At number 4, it's Contra Hardcore. If you thought your Mega Drive could handle bullets, lasers and robotic mayhem all at once, this game said, hold my energy drink. The action was relentless, the difficulty was cruel, and the screen often looked like it was about to explode, just like your nerves. But hey, isn't that what Contra is all about? Number 3 is Alien Soldier, a game that didn't just push the console, it pushed your reflexes and your patience. Developed by Treasure, this game was like a fever dream of boss fights, flashy effects and, let's be honest, a lot of button mashing chaos. I'm convinced this game was designed to show off what the Mega Drive could do in the hands of developers who really wanted to punish us. Thank you, Treasure, for both the beauty and the pain. The Mega Drive wasn't known for its fighting games really, but then came Street Fighter II Special Champion Edition. At number 2, this port was proof that the Sega Mega Drive could go toe to toe with arcades. Sure, the sound wasn't perfect, sorry Giles theme, but the graphics, crisp, clean and way better than they had any right to be. This game had me throwing more Hadoukens than a yoga instructor tosses out in the mass days. And finally, at number 1, we have the legendary Gunstar Heroes. This game pushed every graphical and gameplay boundary the Mega Drive had, and then some. From massive bosses to insane weapon combinations to the screen-filling explosions, this game had everything, and it never dropped a frame. This was the Mega Drive's mic drop. Oh, you thought you were done with me? Think again. Gunstar Heroes didn't just push the console to its limit, it broke the mold, glued it back together and broke it again. Galactic Attack on the Sega Saturn is a game that takes the age-old space shooter formula, adds a layer of strategic depth and blasts it into orbit with a barrage of lasers so intense it'll leave your thumbs twitching long after you've put down the controller. Also known as Layer Section or Rave Force in its various iterations, this game is a classic example of easy to pick up, hard to put down, and even harder to master. At first glance, Galactic Attack seems like a standard vertical shooter. You control a sleek spaceship, you shoot down waves of enemy ships, and you dodge enough incoming fire to make a stormtrooper blush. But this isn't just a mindless blastathon. The game's real charm lies in its dual layer targeting system, which adds a layer, no pun intended, of depth that makes every level feel like a carefully choreographed dance of destruction. Here's how it works. Your ship has two modes of attack: standard bullets for enemies on your plane and a lock-on laser system for enemies on lower planes. This means that while you're dodging bullets and taking down foes directly in front of you, you also have to keep an eye on the targets below, locking on and unleashing a barrage of lasers to clear the way. It's a bit like rubbing your stomach and patting your head at the same time, but once you get the hang of it, the satisfaction is out of this world. Visually, Galactic Attack is a stunner. The Saturn's 2D capabilities shine here, with beautifully rendered backgrounds that scroll by as you descend deeper into the heart of enemy territory. The game's use of parallax scrolling gives a real sense of depth, making it feel like you're truly diving into an enemy-infested planet. And those lasers are pure eye candy, cutting through enemies with a satisfying whoosh that never gets old. The soundtrack is another highlight, delivering a pulsating mix of electronic beats and ambient tracks that perfectly capture the game's high-tech, otherworldly atmosphere. Each stage is a sensory overload of sights and sounds, pulling you into the action and keeping you on the edge of your seat from start to finish. But be warned, Galactic Attack is as challenging as it is beautiful. The game starts off manageable, but the difficulty ramps up faster than a spaceship hitting hyperspeed. Enemies become more aggressive, bullet patterns get trickier, and you'll need to master that lock-on system if you want to survive. It's a game that demands precision, patience and plenty of practice, but for those who love a challenge, it's the kind of difficulty that keeps you coming back for more. If there's a downside to Galactic Attack, it's that the game can feel a bit short, especially if you're a seasoned shmup veteran. But with multiple difficulty levels and the sheer joy of replaying stages to perfect your score, the game's replay value is higher than a satellite in geostationary orbit. In conclusion, Galactic Attack is a gem of a shooter that shines brightly in the Sega Saturn's stellar lineup. With its innovative gameplay, stunning visuals and killer soundtrack, it's a must-play for anyone who loves a good challenge and isn't afraid to dodge a few thousand bullets along the way. So strap in, lock on and prepare to blast off. Galactic Attack is a cosmic thrill ride you won't want to miss. The Sega CD. A beautiful, misunderstood add-on that turned your Genesis/Mega Drive into a multimedia powerhouse. Well, at least that was the idea. Whether it was pushing full motion video, CD quality soundtracks or just massive game worlds, the Sega CD had its moments of pure brilliance. Today I'm counting down the top 10 games that pushed the Sega CD to its limit. Let's get stuck in.
Welcome to the sewers, punk.
Coming in at number 10 is the game that launched 1,000 FMV dreams, Sewer Shark.
The guy you're replacing? He had that same tough guy smirk on his face that you do.
Sure, it was essentially an interactive movie with some real shooter mechanics thrown in, but Sewer Shark showed off the Sega CD's full motion video capabilities like no other. You gotta love the grainy video and those 90s actors trying their best to convince you you're on a high stakes sewer cleaning mission. But hey, This game proved that FMV was the future, or so we thought.
Your call sign, Dog Meat. All right, climb aboard, Dog Meat.
Next up, we're trading sci-fi sewers for classic JRPG goodness. At number 9, it's Lunar, the Silver Star. With gorgeous anime cutscenes, a fully orchestrated soundtrack, and a rich story, this was the game that made you go, wait, is this the Sega CD or an episode of Dragon Ball? Voice acting, cutscenes, and one of the best love stories in RPG history, Lunar didn't just push the Sega CD to its limits, it raised the bar for RPGs on every console.
From the first seconds of time I've come. Born of human spirit, I travel throughout space and time.
At number 8, I've got the game that said, you thought Mortal Kombat was brutal? Hold my sword. It's Eternal Champions, Challenge from the Dark Side, with tons of special moves, insane fatalities, and even the ability to dismember opponents. This fighting game was a bloody good time. This game pushed the Sega CD to render all those juicy animations with style and, well, a lot of pixelated gore. Plus 12-player support? Sega CD multi-tap madness. At number 7, I've got Snatcher, the cyberpunk adventure from the legendary Hideo Kojima. The game wasn't just a technological marvel for the Sega CD, it was a storytelling masterpiece. With its dark dystopian world, tons of voice acting and haunting soundtrack, Snatcher felt like a graphic novel come to life. For fans of Blade Runner and complex narratives, Snatcher was pure bliss, and considering how much data it crammed onto that CD, the Sega CD earned its paycheck with this one.
As they steal their victims' bodies in order to take their place, these mysterious invaders become known as Snatchers.
You knew this was coming. At number 6, it's the game that made time travel cool before Back to the Future reruns, Sonic CD. With incredible level design, smooth as silk animation, and one of the catchiest soundtracks in the Sonic franchise, this game took the Hedgehog's speed to a whole new level. Plus that opening animation, chef's kiss. Combine that with the time travel mechanic that gave you past, present and future versions of each level, and Sonic CD made your Genesis/Mega Drive feel like it was strapped to a rocket. At number 5, it's time for some tactical RPG greatness with Shining Force CD. While the Genesis versions of Shining Force were already incredible, this Sega CD edition took things to the next level. It combined 2 Game Gear Shining Force titles, added new scenarios and gave it all a serious graphical upgrade. With richer colours, more detailed sprites and CD quality sound, Shining Force CD was the ultimate experience for strategy RPG fans. The Sega CD flexed its muscles here, making sure every move felt epic, every battle legendary.
Now listen up. Last night one of our agents got into the house and found some kind of weird security system. Hidden cameras in almost every room and a series of traps.
Next up at number 4, it's the game that caused so much controversy it led to the formation of the ESRB, Night Trap. This cheesy FMV horror game was part interactive movie, part, well, train wreck. But it pushed the Sega CD's FMV abilities to the max. Sure, the acting was bad, the video quality was worse, and the gameplay was, let's be honest, clunky. But the sheer ambition, that's what earned Night Trap its place in Sega CD history. At number 3, I've got the action platformer that was as fun as it was charming, Popful Mail. This game was an absolute delight on the Sega CD, with vibrant graphics, a whimsical soundtrack and full voice acting for all the characters. With snappy dialogue and a fun mix of action and exploration, Popful Mail showed off the Sega CD's ability to mix colourful visuals and CD audio into one magical experience. It's like if Zelda had a sense of humour and a better wardrobe.
Hey, you are a real funny girl. You make me laugh. Hey, you like a good joke? Ha! Boomba!
Guy, Jessica was kidnapped.
Jessica?
My sweetheart since childhood.
The Mad Gear must pay. She's my friend too. Count me in.
At number 2, it's the game that brought the arcade experience straight to your living room, Final Fight CD. This version was the closest thing you could get to the arcade classic, with smooth animations, huge sprites and that crunchy 90s beat 'em up action. The Sega CD delivered the best port of Final Fight outside of the arcade, and with CD quality sound effects and music, this game turned your Genesis/Mega Drive into a street fighting powerhouse. If you've made it this far into the video, thank you so much. I really do appreciate every single view. If this is your kind of thing, if you enjoy my content, please like and subscribe. Also, comments really help get the videos seen. So let me know in the comments down below which games you thought pushed the Sega CD, Mega CD to its absolute limit. But don't go anywhere just yet. I've got one more game for you. And finally at number 1, it's the sequel that took everything from Lunar the Silver Star did and dialed it up to 11, Lunar Eternal Blue. This game pushed the Sega CD to its absolute breaking point with gorgeous anime cutscenes, a fully orchestrated soundtrack and a sprawling emotional story. with beautiful hand-drawn visuals, voice acting that brought the characters to life, and epic turn-based combat, Lunar Eternal Blue wasn't just a game, it was an experience.
Did you say something, Ruby?
Oh, great. Don't tell me you're hearing voices now.
But...
Hurry up and get the dragon's eye. The timer's almost run out on the trap.
Trap? What trap?
Giga Wing 2 on the Sega Dreamcast is like standing in the middle of a fireworks show, except the fireworks are bullets, and they're all aimed directly at your face. This is Bullet Hell done right, a frenetic, over-the-top shooter that dares you to survive the chaos while racking up a score so high you'll wonder if the game's actually broken. From the moment you start, Giga Wing 2 throws you into the deep end, and there's no shallow water here, just waves of enemies, bullets and bosses the size of small continents. You'll spend most of your time dodging impossible patterns of glowing death or mashing the reflect button like your life depends on it, because, well, it does. The reflect system is the game's ace in the hole, letting you bounce back enemy fire in spectacular light show of destruction, but use it wisely. This is no casual Sunday shooter, it's a test of your reflexes, wits and ability to not throw your Dreamcast controller through the nearest wall. Speaking of tests, let's talk about the high scores. Giga Wing 2 doesn't just deal in points, it deals in absurd numbers. The kind of numbers that make astrophysicists question reality. After a few levels you'll find yourself staring at scores with more digits than a phone number, and by the end you'll be breaking into the trillions like it's pocket change. It's ridiculous, it's wonderful, and it's exactly the kind of arcade insanity that makes this game so memorable. Graphically, Giga Wing 2 is a feast for the eyes, if your eyes can keep up with the madness. The Dreamcast flexes its polygon-pushing muscles with colourful, explosive visuals that fill the screen with beautifully rendered mayhem. Between the barrage of bullets and the spectacular boss fights, your eyes will be darting all over the place, trying to find a safe space. Spoiler, there isn't one. It's visual overload in the best possible way, and while you'll be too busy dodging to admire the scenery, trust me, it looks fantastic. The soundtrack is a pulse-pounding mix of orchestral and electronic tunes that do their best to match the intensity of the game. Every track feels like a call to action, driving you forward as you weave through the chaos and try to keep your reflexes in one piece. The music matches the sheer epic scale of the game, especially when those gargantuan bosses show up to crush your hopes and dreams. But let's be real, Giga Wing 2 is tough. Like, did I just walk into a brick wall of bullets? Tough. The difficulty curve starts high and never really drops, making it one of those games where every victory feels like an achievement and every failure is just part of the learning process. You'll die, a lot, but with each run you'll inch closer to mastery, finding tiny gaps in bullet patterns and refining your use of the reflex shield until you feel like a bullet dodging ninja. In short, Giga Wing 2 is a glorious, heart-pounding shmup that's as unforgiving as it is rewarding. With its insane high scores, stunning visuals and non-stop action, it's a must-play for anyone who loves a good challenge and isn't afraid to see numbers bigger than the national debt on their score screen. Just remember to breathe and maybe keep a stress ball nearby. You're going to need it.
Everyone on base, until instructions are given, do not make a sound. Stop all construction work. I repeat, do not make a sound. This is not a drill. The late 90s were a golden era for survival horror, with iconic franchises like Resident Evil and Silent Hill making waves across the PlayStation. However, Sega's Saturn didn't fare quite as well in the genre, particularly outside of Japan. One of its last major titles, Deep Fear, released in 1998, attempted to bring the thrills and chills of survivor horror to the console. Today, I'm diving back into this aquatic nightmare to explore its legacy and why it remains one of the Saturn's most underrated gems.
You thought you knew how to play the game? But no one has played this hard, this fast, this real, until now. Come, look into the world of Sega Saturn.
Deep Fear was released at a crucial time for Sega. The Saturn was losing the 32-bit console war and the Dreamcast loomed on the horizon. With competition from Sony's Juggernaut $2.99 and the upcoming Resident Evil 2, Deep Fear slipped under the radar. It never even saw an official release in North America. As one of the Saturn's swan songs, it holds a special place in gaming history, representing Sega's final attempts to keep up with trends in horror gaming.
System was on. That was close.
What made Deep Fear intriguing, both then and now, was its unique setting. While other survival horror games trapped players in haunted mansions or eerie towns, Deep Fear sank you deep into the ocean. The game takes place in a military research facility called the Big Table, situated at the bottom of the Pacific Ocean. The claustrophobic underwater environment plays into primal fears. What if something goes wrong beneath the surface where help is miles above? That sense of isolation is one of the game's greatest assets and continues to resonate with those who revisit it.
He's hurt.
Hey, you okay?
At first glance, Deep Fear looks like a Resident Evil clone. It uses fixed camera angles, tank controls, and offers the same mix of puzzle solving, limited resources, and combat against grotesque mutants. But there are a few elements that set it apart. The most significant innovation was the oxygen management system. In addition to the usual survivor horror concerns, players had to constantly monitor oxygen levels. Many areas of the big table become deprived of air, forcing you to use portable oxygen tanks. The twist adds a layer of tension that other games in the genre lacked, making every encounter and exploration fraught with urgency. However, this mechanic was also divisive. While it added suspense, it could feel tedious at times, breaking the pacing with constant stops to refill your air supply. Combat in Deep Fear was more action orientated than its peers. One of the game's more forward-thinking features was the ability to reload weapons while moving, something that wouldn't become standard in the genre until much later on. The enemies, however, were a bit lackluster, with uninspired designs and predictable behaviour. Compared to the gruesome creations of Resident Evil or Silent Hill, the mutated crew members of Deep Fear often felt a bit too tame. For a game released on the Sega Saturn, Deep Fear was technically impressive. The pre-rendered backgrounds and underwater environments captured the foreboding atmosphere of being trapped below the surface, creating a tense and eerie mood throughout. The graphical limitations of the Saturn didn't detract from the overall experience, but character models could appear blocky and the animations were stiff, by today's standards anyway. While the visuals hold up as a product of their time, the sound design hasn't aged quite as well. On one hand, the soundtrack by Kenji Kawai, known for his work on anime like Ghost in the Shell, provided a haunting ambient backdrop that intensified the suspense. On the other hand, the voice acting is a notorious weak point. English dialogue is awkwardly delivered, with characters sounding wooden and disinterested.
Chief!
You don't have to yell, Mookie. I can hear you just fine.
It's an emergency! Sharon's drowning in the E-pool! Come quickly!
I'm right above you. I'll be right there.
It's reminiscent of early Resident Evil voice acting, which is both charming and frustrating, depending on your tolerance for cheesy B-movie performances.
Crash? What happened?
We don't know yet. I asked Dubois, the designer, to come too.
Oh, there's no problem with my CFOX system. No accident should have occurred. Oh!
In retrospect, this voice work adds to the game's quirky charm, but it's undeniably a little bit rough around the edges.
Terrible! My masterpiece is ruined. Oh, what am I going to do?
So why does Deep Fear remain in the shadow of other survival horror titans like Resident Evil? Part of the reason is its limited release. By 1998, the Saturn was definitely in its twilight years, and with the Dreamcast on the horizon, many gamers overlooked Deep Fear entirely. It never even saw a North American release, which further diminished its exposure and ensured that it never got the same attention as its contemporaries. In the years since, however, Deep Fear has developed a modest cult following among retro enthusiasts and Saturn collectors. It's one of those games that, while flawed, does enough to be remembered fondly by those who give it a chance. The underwater setting and oxygen management system were bold moves for the time, and it's a shame they didn't get a broader platform to shine. However, it's also worth noting that Deep Fear came out during a time when the genre was still defining itself. In the late 90s, players were only just beginning to appreciate the nuances of survival horror. As a result, Deep Fear may have been a little ahead of its time, overshadowed by the juggernauts that would define the genre. Looking back, Deep Fear is an important piece of Sega Saturn history and a hidden gem of the survival horror genre. It took risks with its underwater setting, introduced new mechanics like oxygen management, and offered a different kind of terror. Though it's not without its flaws, tedious backtracking, repetitive enemies, and awkward voice acting, the game deserves recognition for its ambition and atmosphere. In many ways, Deep Fear is a reminder of Sega's experimental spirit during the Saturn era, where the company was willing to try new ideas, even if they didn't always land perfectly. For fans of retro gaming and survival horror, it's definitely a title worth revisiting, both as a curiosity and as a relic of a time when Sega was still fighting to stay relevant in the console wars.
Shinkai horror suspense, Deep Fear. Sega
Guardian Heroes on the Sega Saturn is what happens when a classic beat-em-up gets a PhD in RPG mechanics and a black belt in pure, unfiltered fun. Developed by Treasure, the same mad geniuses behind Gunstar Heroes and Radiant Silver Gun, this game takes the humble art of pummeling enemies and elevates it to a near-religious experience. At first glance, Guardian Heroes looks like your typical side-scrolling brawler. A gang of plucky heroes set out to vanquish evil, armed with swords, spells and more fists of fury than a Jackie Chan marathon. But don't be fooled, this isn't your average move right and punch affair, with its branching storylines, multiple endings and a combat system so deep you might need a snorkel. This game is like a buffet of beat 'em up goodness with RPG sprinkles on top. Combat is where Guardian Heroes really shines. Picture this. You're tearing through waves of enemies, chaining together combos like a martial arts virtuoso, while your friends or CPU buddies are casting spells that light up the screen like a 4th of July celebration. You can juggle foes, block incoming attacks and unleash devastating special moves that make you feel like a one-person wrecking crew. And with 3 planes of movement, foreground, midground and background, the battlefield feels dynamic and chaotic in the best possible way. But the real magic of Guardian Heroes is in its replayability. The game's story branches off in different directions based on the choices you make, leading to multiple paths and endings. Want to fight an army of ninjas in one playthrough and a horde of undead warriors in another? Go right ahead. Each playthrough feels fresh, and with so many characters and paths to explore, Guardian Heroes is the gift that keeps on giving. Visually, the game is a feast for the eyes. The hand-drawn sprites are packed with personality, and the animations are smooth enough to make even the most jaded retro gamer nod in approval. The backgrounds are lush and detailed, creating a world that feels alive and ready to be smashed to pieces. Let's
let's not forget the soundtrack, an adrenaline pumping mix of rock and orchestral tracks that perfectly complement the on-screen mayhem. If there's one downside to Guardian Heroes, it's that it can get a bit chaotic, especially in multiplayer mode, where the screen can become a swirling vortex of spells, sword slashes and flying enemies. But honestly, isn't that part of the fun? The game's chaos is its charm, turning every battle into a frenzied button mashing ballet. In conclusion, Guardian Heroes isn't just a beat 'em up, it's a masterpiece of the genre. Whether you're a fan of RPGs, action games, or just enjoy the simple pleasure of hitting things until they stop moving, this is one game that deserves a place in your Sega Saturn collection.